I'm now pleased to welcome Georgia's president, Salome Zurabishvili. She's an opponent of the law and plans to veto it. Madam President, good to have you on DW. Now, the Georgian government claims this law is all about transparency. You say that's a lie. In your opinion, what's the government trying to do here?
Well, I don't say. First of all, it's all the concerned members of the society, the NGOs, the media, and at large the population that protests this law because it's a copy of the law edicted by Putin some years ago and that he has been enforcing gradually and completely recently, and that is designed to limit the activities of the non-governmental organization, to limit the freedom of the media, to limit the activity of the international organizations that are present in Georgia since our independence, that have been funding and supporting our institutions, our progress towards democracy, and in general, our path towards European and Euro-Atlantic integration. So this law is criticized by everyone, and it's criticized by our European partners, by our American partners that say that this will be an obstacle to the European path of Georgia, when we are expecting by the end of the year to get the possibility to open negotiations for Georgia's entry into the European Union. So it's a very important step, and it's not surprising that Russia would be putting pressure and obstacles in front of this path. And that's what we're seeing today.
Let's talk about Russia's influence there. Sorry to jump in there, but you've been warning that this law is a hybrid strategy by Russia to avoid Georgia's EU membership. What is the Kremlin's influence over the current government?
Well, that's what we see through this law and through these decisions. And there are a number of other decisions that have been taken in the recent months and that all go very directly against the recommendations that have been put forward by the European partners for allowing us to get to the result at the end of the year. So the objective picture that we see through that is that the Georgian government today is presenting laws, is taking steps and measures that serve only one, and that is Russia, and that deserves our path to European Union.
But, Madam President, polls suggest an overwhelming majority of Georgian citizens wants to see the country move closer to the West and join the EU. Why then would the elected government by those same people take cues from the Kremlin?
Well, first of all, it's true that 80% of the population, and that has been a constant throughout these 3 decades since our independence, is supporting the European integration, is supporting the Euro-Atlantic integration, and that has been very clear, and that has been the policy of all the governments in Georgia up to now, including the current government that was the one to introduce in the constitution a specific amendment that was inscribing the Euro-Atlantic integration as one of our main priorities that we should all serve. Something is happening, something has happened that has changed this dedication to the European path, and very clearly all the measures that have been taken recently, all the rhetoric that is now heard from the authorities is one that is much closer to Russia than it is to our European partners.
Hence, why is that? You have an ear to the ground. You're right there. What caused this turn?
Well, probably a reactivation of Russian strategy. Here, in our case, it's a hybrid strategy. Probably some pressures on the members of the governments, on Mr. Ivanishvili and others. It's very difficult to know what and how it happens, but it's clear that this is a result of Russia's interest and Russia's strategy.
You're planning on vetoing the bill, but your veto is expected to be overruled in Parliament. Is there then anything that can stop this bill from passing?
Well, there is one thing that can stop or reverse this bill and other bills that cannot enter here in the detail of the bills that have been taken recently. But there is only one thing that can reverse it. It's the mobilization of the population and that mobilization translated into votes in October of this year. And that will be the main test for the population, for Georgia, and for its European path.
You have, however, though, appealed for these developments in Georgia to be discussed at the European Council. What exactly do you expect them to do?
Well, to maintain and to reiterate the position. I mean, we cannot completely forego the idea that the government, which is under pressures from Russia, can also receive the pressures from our European partners and maybe listen to them. And they have different measures at their hand. But what is important is for the Georgian population to feel that it is supported, that it is understood in its desire of joining the European Union, and that it is supported. So that's the reiterance. And we have had, for instance, 9 statements from our American partners, from the State Department, and we have had a number of statements from the European Union. And that is what brings hope to the Georgian population that despite everything, we'll continue our path towards European Union.
You mentioned it before, it's an election year in Georgia. So do you think this crisis could actually play into the hands of more Western-oriented forces?
I think that it's, yes, because the election will be, in fact, a form of referendum. It will be for Europe or for Russia, or not Europe, at least. So that is a very clear question that is put to the population, that is put to our diaspora, that was not so active until now in the elections because they felt that it was this or that party. Now it's a much more existential question that will be asked to them. And the youth that we have seen in the demonstrations of these last 3 days, which has become extremely active, will certainly be active in the elections. And for them the question is, what future for us in Georgia? What European future for our country?
We really appreciate your time, Madam President, but before I let you go, I'd like to ask you about something else as well. Could you give us an update on the situation of Georgia's ex-president, Mikhail Saakashvili, who's been in prison since 2021?
Well, he's still in prison, and that probably won't change. He is responsible for also the same thing as what is happening to us today, which was going towards an authoritarian regime at the end of his mandate. And we're seeing today Georgian Dream taking the same direction of an authoritarian regime. And that is something that the Georgian population and the democratic forces will probably not accept from any coming government either.
That was Salome Zurabishvili, the president of Georgia. Madam President, thank you so much for joining DW today.
Thank you.